Number 1. Birds striking planes have resulted in over 211 deaths. Collisions between birds and aircraft have considerably increased in recent years, possibly because there's more planes in the sky, or maybe birds are just getting a bit stupid. Either way, deaths occurring due to birds have exceeded 219 since 1988. And more than 200 aircraft, meanwhile, have been destroyed in such accidents. I suppose birds were there first, so we should really just do the decent thing, but most people seem to think these collisions are happening because of increased environmental cleanliness and the fact that airplanes are now much quieter. Number 2. Over 200 bodies are present throughout Mount Everest, and they're used as waypoints. More than 200 people have died in their attempts to scale the world's highest mountain, but at least they're not going to complete waste. Everest offers seemingly endless options for kicking the bucket, including falling into the abyss, to suffocating from a lack of oxygen, or just being smashed in the face by raining boulders. Yet climbers continue to try their luck in tackling Everest despite the obvious dangers, and because of that, the living often pass the frozen, preserved dead along Everest's routes, so often that many bodies have earned themselves nicknames and serve as trail markers, which we suppose is slightly more useful than a gravestone. Number 3. The average chocolate bar has 8 insect legs in it. Now, sorry to keep bombarding you with bugs here, but it's just the reality of life. Once cocoa beans are harvested, they need to be fermented, which means they're inserted into an earthen area near where they're harvested. The sun makes them slightly rot, and then they can be taken out as mature cocoa beans. Naturally, of course, this process sees insects swarming the area where the beans are harvested. Nearly all chocolate has bugs in it, mainly because it would be too expensive to produce it without bugs. And as mentioned earlier, the FDA do allow a select amount of bugs or animal to be present in most foods you eat. With all that said, enjoy your next meal. Number 4. Crushed mouse brains were used as toothpaste by the Romans. Now, you shouldn't have to have nightmares about this one now, because to be honest, the Romans haven't been around for quite a while. But nothing says clean, white, fresh teeth like a good old pair of mouse brains. I wonder what they used to use to take care of cavities. Number 5. An average mattress doubles in weight over the course of 10 years because of dust mites and dust mite poop. The average person spends about 8 hours a night on their bed, whether it be sleeping, watching TV, or, reading a book. But apart from our loved ones, who else are we sharing the bed with? More than likely an insect called the dust mite. That's right, you and your family are sleeping on a bed with millions of tiny organisms called dust mites who are eating dead skin flakes and nesting in your bed, pillows, and furniture. Dust mites are the number 1 allergen in your house and affect 85% of the people who have asthma. And with the average person spending about a third of their life in bed, that's a little bit dark. A typical mattress can contain millions of dust mites, and a single dust mite produces about 20 waste droppings every day, each small enough to get lodged in the lungs, bronchial tubes. And that means that after you've owned a pillow for about 2 years, approximately 10% of that pillow's weight will be composed of dead mites and their droppings. Ugh. Number 6. The average person consumes a pound of insects every year. Not a massive surprise, this one. I just had a quarter pound of beetles for lunch. No, actually I didn't. And whilst eating insects intentionally may be a common practice in some countries, most of us don't really like the idea. But everyone does gulp down their share of insects without the intention of doing so. The FDA reckons we roughly consume on average about a pound of insects every year, and this is mostly mixed into other foods. The majority of processed foods contain small amounts of insects, and the FDA have even set limits to how much is actually allowed. For example, peanut butter is allowed an average of 30 insect parts for every 100 grams, while fruit juice is apparently allowed to have 5 fruit fly eggs for every milliliter of juice. So, you make a big fuss and say you don't like eating insects, but there are insects in that, and you seem to enjoy it. Ugh, bleak. Number 7. Your desk has more bacteria than your toilet bowl. Now listen, it isn't a competition, but before you eat lunch at your keyboard, consider this one simple fact. The average desk has 400 times more bacteria than a toilet seat. Whether you're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacking, or just aimlessly smearing custard over your things, your keyboard, mouse, and phone are going to get covered and infested with germs. And if you've ever attempted to properly clean a keyboard, you likely won't be surprised to hear that 70% more bacteria will be found in your keyboard than you'll find on a toilet seat. Office phones, meanwhile, host around 25,000 germs per square inch, and the area on your desk, meanwhile, where your hands rest, has around 10,000 bacteria. So, do wash your hands, eh? Number 8. Soda is really, really bad for your teeth. How bad, you ask? Well, worse than you could probably imagine. Those delicious, sugary, fizzy drinks, even the diet kind, are nearly as corrosive to dental enamel as battery acid, which you probably don't drink. Citric acid, which is put into most fizzy drinks as a preservative, can become a serious problem for even the casual drinker's teeth, chipping away at enamel and then dental. So I've no doubt that your mother's already told you this several times, but for heaven's sake, use a straw. Number 9. Eskimo babies with colds have their mothers suck the snot out of their noses. Eskimo is of course a term for the indigenous people who traditionally live around the Northern Pole, in areas from eastern Siberia across Alaska, Canada and Greenland. But unfortunately it seems like they have some difficulty picking up boxes of Kleenex from the corner shop. And given the fact that it's consistently quite freezing most of the time where they live, there's probably a good chance they catch colds quite often. I mean, personally, I feel sorry for the mothers. What do they do after they've sucked it out of the baby's nose? Hopefully they spit it out. Ugh, just thinking about it gives me the chills. Number 10. Toasters kill over 700 people a year. In 2007, toasters killed 791 people. Now, just for reference, sharks only killed 9 people during that same period. Just let that sink in for a moment. Now, of course, the leading cause of death by toaster is people sticking metal objects into them while they're still turned on. And while it seems like a really convenient way of getting out that toast, maybe don't do it because you might die. Because the thing is, toasters are actually quite powerful electronic devices. The source of all that heat in the wires that cooks your bread, yeah, that's electricity running through a wire. Touch that wire with a knife whilst holding a knife, and that electricity will go into you. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. For more top 10 lists, be sure to subscribe by clicking on the button that you can see now.